Welcome back. We're continuing our look at the protests taking place in Iran, and joining us now is actor and comedian Maz Jobrani. Maz was born in Tehran. At age 6, his family left the country shortly after the Islamic Revolution. You may recognize him from his recurring role on such popular TV shows as The West Wing, 24, Law and Order and ER. He's also starred in several Hollywood films, including the recent Nights of Prosperity and 13 Going on 30. But it's behind the scenes that have been playing out in Iran, the scenes playing out in Iran that are keeping Maz mostly occupied today. Maz, I'm going to get to you in just a second. I want to welcome you to the show, but we've got a caller on the line from Tehran. We've got Arash on the phone. I just want to get Arash, welcome Arash, in and quickly ask you, really, how do you regard what's happening? Do you see any potential for change in the way the country is run?
Yes, I see. But, what happened in Iran in the last week is not, what you show exactly in your television.
Okay.
First of all, I just want to mention that. You are mentioning just the anti-governmental side, and you just showing the protesters. But you are not showing the Ahmadinejad supporters. This is the first problem. And the second problem is the situation in Tehran is right now is very calm. I know there are some protesters and there are some streets, the people are coming out. But I just want to mention that the number of the anti-governmental protesters and the number of Mousavi supporters are reducing every day.
Okay. Arash, a quick question. I understand what you're saying about not seeing the supporters of Mr. Ahmadinejad. Of course, I guess the fact that there's been clashes with those who are supporting Mr. Mousavi is why they've been making the on-air, the television on-air. And I wonder, when you look at the scenes of where there have been people shot and where there is violence, how you regard what's taking place there, the extent of the force used.
Yeah, they use the force because they have a different ideology. You are looking different, the America are looking different, Iran society, Iran government looking different. Imagine yourself in them situation. Imagine if it's happening in America, if it's happening in the States. What was the reaction of them government? This is truly natural.
All right.
We've got an election. There is someone won and there is someone lose in any election. Right. And it is out of, it's not a legal process.
Well, Arash, listen, I want to thank you for contributing. Obviously, it's good for us to have a variety of views, and of course, we'll continue to try to follow the story as fairly and balanced as possible. I thank you for your opinion on that. I want to welcome Maz Jobrani, and it's great to talk with you again, Maz.
Thanks, Riz. Thanks for having me. And just right off the bat, what Arash was saying from Iran, as a matter of fact, being here in the United States, the day or two after the protest started, they were showing on TV, there was supporters of Ahmadinejad at a rally. They did show that, they did report on that, and I think what you said makes sense, is that probably the reason that the anti-Ahmadinejad supporters got more press as it went on was because it turned into violence there, whereas the pro-Ahmadinejad supporters, I don't think any violence broke out on those rallies.
Now, I know, Maz, you've been following this very closely. You're close to what's happening there and have been commenting on this. And interesting enough, you've been remembering 1979 when you were just a young boy, when the revolution took place then. And I wonder what similarities you see. I know you've recalled going on, into the basement and stuff to escape, potential violence and stuff. But tell me what similarities you see from what you see on TV.
Well, I was a kid when that one was happening. I was in Iran. I remember hearing the chanting, the protesting. I remember there was a curfew. I remember there was gunfire, and we would go into the basement, like you just said. Obviously, I was there for that one, and for this one, I'm not. I'm in the United States, and so, my support is behind those that want. I think the main thing is, and again, I will address it to people like Arash. I think the main thing is, even the Guardian Council has come out and said that there was voter irregularities. I think that even when you do the vote count again, we recount it again, most likely Ahmadinejad would win again. But the problem is, I don't think he would win by 11 million. Yeah. And I think that the people are frustrated with the fact that it was such a landslide when it didn't seem like it was going to be such a landslide. There was, admitted voter fraud. And so, not being there, obviously, not being on the streets, all I can do is send in my support. But I do see the similarities with the protests. In '79 there would be protests, and then there would be the Shah's army would shoot into the protesters, and people would die. And a few years later, there would be a mourning of that death. And it just escalated. And what happened with the revolution of '79, as well as what you started to see here, was that it wasn't just students. It started to spread to others. It was spread to professionals. I saw a picture recently with some mullahs who were walking in protest of the election results. And then you start hearing about some conflicts within the actual leadership there between the reformists and the hardliners. So you start to see some of those things cracking, and so you see the similarities.
You know, we had a comment from a viewer, a regular viewer, Farhana Syed in Pakistan, who sent this through Twitter. Thank you, Farhana. Do you think the Iranian government's claims of US and UK involvement in the election protests hold any weight, or is it a tactic to divert attention?
I think that, you know, there's always some interest. Obviously, you know, if you look at, you know, who benefits from these things, yeah, you can always say there's some interest from the West in who wins and who doesn't win. But I think that for too long, the people of the Middle East, my country, Iran, other countries, I think for too long we've blamed the West. And now let me be straight here. The West has been involved with a lot of stuff, whether it's the Mossadegh overthrow, or you know, involvement in India, Pakistan. I mean, the West definitely has had a hand in a lot of things, but this one seems to be, you know, 30 years of I would say oppression of people. I mean, I went and visited Iran around 10 years ago, and a lot of the young people I spoke to, there was really no opportunity because there's a high unemployment rate. There was, you know, there's a lot of laws that kind of dictate what you can wear, what you can say. You know, freedom of speech is not that open there. So there's a lot of, you know, after 30 years, I think people feel that oppression and they come out in the streets. And I think the catalyst here was this miscount on the votes. And so I think my response to the comment from Pakistan is that I think that it is definitely a way to deflect a responsibility. I mean, it's so funny because for the longest time, anytime something bad happens, we always blame it on the West. We say the West did it, the West did it, you know. And in this case, I go, hey, what about taking credit for something that we've done? Like, it's not, you know, the people of Iran have come out into the streets to protest and want a fair election. So I think there's credit to be given as opposed to blame to be given.
Well, let's get Pennsylvania on the line. Harun, good to have you with us. A call from the US. Harun, what would you like to ask?
Yeah, so seems to be, so of course it's a religious democracy, and the government seems to put like a mask over the entire population, and youths don't appear to be religious at all from their lifestyles and from their being anti-Ahmadinejad, which is basically pro-religious. My question is, if Mousavi succeeds in basically taking over the government, what would be the image of Iran? Would it basically change as being ultra?
Harun, I'm going to put this to Maz, who's with us on this segment of the show. And Maz, that's the point. I mean, even if something happens, there's a decision one way or the other, Mousavi or Ahmadinejad stays, will things really change, significantly change in your opinion?
I don't think that it'll change significantly. I think that it remains an Islamic republic, and that's the whole point, is that Mousavi, you know, the four candidates in this election were approved by a council that allowed them to run. And so even if Mousavi were to win, it's not going to be night and day. I mean, Mousavi still probably has some of the similar views as the hardliners do when it comes to dealing with America, when it comes to the nuclear issue, a lot of stuff. So I think the main issue at hand is to go back, and even if you're a supporter of Ahmadinejad, supporter of anyone, I mean, whatever side you're on, you have to go back and say, listen, if we're admitting that there was some miscounts, then there was some voter fraud. And so these people have a right to come out into the streets and say, hey, give us our vote. You know, what were the real numbers? And again, I agree with the first gentleman, Arash, who called from Iran, most likely because Ahmadinejad has support in the rural areas and the sort. I'm sure that he still would win, but it might be a win by 1 million or you know, I don't know how many. But the fact is that it's not that different. But again, it would be some progress, I think, in terms of, it seems like the reformists, Mousavi, I think, is in line with Khatami, who had begun to try and move some liberalization within the society.
I'm going to try and squeeze in a quick call with just a minute and a half to go. Ali in Iran is on the line with us. Good again to hear from Iran. Ali, what would you like to add?
Hello.
Hi.
I just wanted to say something according to my citizen, my friend who called from Tehran. I'm not agree with my friend from Tehran, or I should say, about his things. I wanted to say that, of course, Ahmadinejad has his own supporters from the poor levels and from the small cities in Iran, but these people who are going these days, out in the streets and are supporting Mr. Mousavi, they are not, you know, we cannot call them rioters or something like that the government is trying to call them.
Ali, I've only got like about 30 seconds with Maz left, so let's get a comment on that. The profile of people on the streets, Maz, has it surprised you, the range of people? Just a quick thought.
Absolutely, I think that's one of the similarities between what's going on now and what was happening in '79. You know, I think there was protests in '99 that tended to be mostly students, but this seems to have a wider range, and that's one of the things that I think has mobilized so many people around the world to support these protesters.
Maz Jobrani, it's so good to have you on the show. Thank you very much. Hope to speak with you again soon.
Thank you, Riz.
Thanks. And again, our thanks to Shorey Aghdashloo for joining us for the first part of that. Thank you for being with us. On the next show, we look at the possibility of a world without fish. Now, strange as it may sound, there's growing scientific evidence that modern fishing techniques are rapidly killing off major species in the oceans. We look at a documentary called The End of the Line, looking at that possibility. So do join us for that. Send in questions if you have any. And remember, you can follow our show on Twitter. Join you for that as well. That's it from me and the team. We'll see you next time.